When I replaced the transmission a couple weeks ago on this 1991 Cadillac Brougham, I briefly made mention of the fact that the exhaust system was put in, or the muffler specifically, was put in backwards and upside down. Kind of had a feeling that would be the case because the car just kind of has a funny sound to it. It's a little bit louder than it should be, but just doesn't sound quite right. And the reason that I knew it was put on backwards, if I can zoom in and show you guys, is most mufflers have a weep hole to allow water to escape, and as you can see, the weep hole's on the very top where it should be on the bottom, and you can see some stains under there where steam is probably trying to come out, but it's clearly installed upside down and therefore backwards. So right here by the anti-sway bar, we're looking at the muffler inlet instead of the outlet. And also, as you can tell, this is a fairly new exhaust system. It was new when I got the car, and that initially was a good selling point, but it turns out not to be the case, unfortunately. And also, looks like they got cheap and they went with a straight pipe for the tailpipe instead of a resonator like the OEM design called for, and therefore this entire exhaust system from the catalytic converter rearward is going to have to come out, and I'm going to go in with a new system, which is actually quite a shame, but there's really no other way to fix this. And because of the kinds of clamps that are used, I'm probably going to end up having to cut the muffler out of there. These clamps tend to distort the pipes in such a way that once you take the clamps off, you can't get the pipes separated anymore. But not really too big of a deal. The car does have kind of a weird droning sound at certain speeds, and that's what prompted me to look at the exhaust and study it more carefully when I was under here replacing the transmission a couple of weeks ago. So this should not be too hard of a job to do because everything is still fairly new. It's not all rusted out or anything. A lot of this stuff should come right on out of here, and I can't wait to see what this thing's going to sound like with the new system installed. The system I'm going with is made by Walker Exhaust Systems. It's pretty much the my only option with this particular kind of car. I've got everything dry fitted together out here in the driveway just to make sure everything fits together properly. So I've got the intermediate pipe, quiet flow SS muffler, the rear pipe that goes over the axle, and the actual resonator as called out by the OEM manufacturer. So this system should bring this car back up to standard as far as quietness and sound level. Along with that, I got the proper exhaust clamps. I've got the 2 1/4 inch exhaust clamp for the resonator, and I've got the 2 1/2 inch 5/16 clamp for the muffler outlet, and then you're going to need the 2 1/2 inch 3/8 clamp for the muffler inlet. So far everything dry fits really nice. This shouldn't be too hard to get in, and all the hangers under the car look to be in good shape when I did the transmission, because a lot of that stuff had to come out of here. The hanger that goes toward the catalytic converter is mounted to the rear engine mount or transmission mount. That had to come out, so I know that's in good shape because I had it out there to look at it. So what I need to do now is get this car out of here and kind of flip it around so I could get it out here in the open here and start working on it and get the old exhaust out of there. Before I do that though, I'm going to try to make some sound level measurements once the thing warms up, and just basically get a kind of a pseudo-scientific baseline of what the sound level is, both before and after the new exhaust is put in. Okay, now that the car is warmed up and it's in a position that I can work on it, I'm set up to take some sound measurements. I've got a older Radio Shack sound level meter, back when Radio Shack existed and actually made good quality, neat stuff. I've got the sound meter approximately about maybe 10 inches away from the tailpipe. I'm doing that so I can go ahead and repeat the measurement once the new exhaust is put in. It's not really scientific, but it's as close as I can get. And right now, it's picking up my voice, but if I'm reading that correctly, that's about 68 to 70 decibels. It's on the 70 decibel scale. And you can clearly hear, as well as see on the meter, a distinctive beat sound, about twice per second. I'm going to go ahead and mount the camera, and we'll see what it does at the higher RPMs. So this is our baseline measurement here. And we'll give it some gas in a second here. Hopefully that didn't peg the meter out, but if nothing else, it gives people watching an idea of what the exhaust sounds like at idle and at some various speeds. And that distinctive beat that you see on the meter, I think, is what kind of contributes to that droning sound going down the road at about 59 miles an hour. And sometimes it's so bad that it might even rattle some interior trim. So those are our baseline measurements as far as dB level and sound quality. I'm not sure how well the microphone on the camera is picking anything up, but now it's time to go ahead and shut it down and cut that exhaust out of here. Go in with the new system with the Quiet Flow SS muffler along with the resonator, and see how this thing sounds compared to the existing system. Okay, I took off all the exhaust clamps, and true to form on these particular clamps, almost always you'll twist off one of the bolts, but these clamps are cheap enough. They're like $1 each. I've never had one that didn't break off like that, but that's why I've got all brand new clamps. I've loosened the bolts on the flange to the catalytic converter here and here. This flange and these bolts will be reused. It just basically forces the pipe up against the cat, and as you can see, the exhaust is dropped down, kind of twisted now. The bad thing about those clamps is, you can see, it distorts the pipe, especially when you're at a shop and they just love using air tools. Bends the pipe all out of shape, so that's not just going to slide out of there, and they might have used sealant in that as well too. So I'm going to have to make a cut here, and same thing right there, and this old muffler should come out. On the back end, you still have a slip joint, and you can see just how distorted that pipe is. That's not coming out. And you can see how it's mounted. It just has a tab right here, And that tab mounts up to here on this isolator. Pretty easy. And we'll take another trip under the car. And my initial assumption was correct. You can clearly see the direction of flow arrow going toward the engine when it should be going toward the rear of the car. So this muffler is definitely put in backwards, and because there's an arrow, it's a directional muffler. Some mufflers you can put in either way, it doesn't matter. This particular muffler was designed to go in one direction only, and the shop got that wrong. Not sure what kind of muffler that is. It is made in the USA. It could be a Walker. I'm not sure about that number. Have to look it up, I guess. But anyway, it's time to get that thing out of here. And we'll go in with our new parts and see what kind of difference, if any, that it makes. Okay, the exhaust system is out of here. Those pipes have been cut out. I've got the new pipe just fitted in there, dry fit, until I can get the muffler up in there using these old brake pad boxes to support the muffler eventually. I've got the rear pipe kind of fitted over the rear axle, and by the way, when you do this at yourself, kind of lying on your back, you need all the help you can get. It's better to jack the car up on jack stands by the frame and let the rear axle hang in full rebound to give you enough clearance between the axle and the frame to work this pipe up in there, because you can't really get the car but so high off the ground with a regular floor jack. If you're on a shop, it doesn't matter. You can get the car up really high and work it up in there. But this method worked out really well. I took the tire off to get more access to make my cut. And you don't have to take the drum off, but I just did that to go ahead and see how my new brake shoes are wearing in. Just taking the opportunity. These were the shoes that came off the car. Really in bad shape. These are the bonded type. I like going in with the riveted type. I went ahead and rebuilt the wheel cylinders, all new seals, as well as the brake shoes. The muffler, I was mistaken earlier. Some mufflers are bi-directional, and this one does appear to be put in properly. Got an A and a B. The arrow goes both ways. So it's, I was looking for words like an inlet word or an arrow going one particular direction, but it does look like the muffler can go in upside down or right side up. There's actually two weep holes on this thing, and that bottom weep hole was so corroded I didn't see it. I thought the weep hole, the only weep hole that was on the muffler, was on the very top, indicating it was put in upside down and backwards, and that appeared not to be the case. The muffler appears to have been put in the right direction, which is encouraging. My faith has been restored somewhat in the people that worked on this car, but I still want to go in with a new unit. This looks like a fairly low-end or economical type of unit. It does not look to be a Walker unit. I'm not sure what this number will correlate to. This looks like aluminized steel, and it's also very light. So that, along with not having a resonator, just makes this all worth it. I'm going to go in with the upgraded Quiet Flow SS muffler, which is all stainless steel, and it is one direction only. And if you look, there's no weep holes anywhere on that muffler. I don't know if the internals are stainless steel and just the shell is stainless steel, or if the whole thing is stainless steel, but I think what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a 1/8 inch drill bit and drill a hole in the same proximity as the weep hole on the older muffler. These weep holes are very important to help scavenge water out of the system, especially if you make a lot of short trips. It's important to have them on the lowest part of the car. Most cars actually have the weep holes. We'll take a look at this 300C SRT8 exhaust system. And on the resonators on the back, you can see a weep hole right there. And the same is true on the Buick Roadmaster. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this muffler and see if I can get a little bit more life out of it. And then we'll go ahead and mount everything in and see how she sounds. Okay, got the weep hole drilled in. Went in nice and smooth. Got it as low as I possibly could. Lowest point of the exhaust system. And this thing is ready to be installed. Okay, after about maybe an hour and a half, the new exhaust is in. Everything fit together really well. I used a small level to make sure that I got the pipes perfectly level off the catalytic converter. All the clamps are level too. They don't have to be, it just makes them look better. And you don't really have to get too crazy torquing these things down to where you start to bend out the pipe flange. All you're trying to do is make a good connection and make sure it seals. I did run the engine briefly and felt all around here before things got too hot, and also had my ear pretty close to here on all the joints. I don't hear any exhaust hissing out of here. And getting to the rear end, everything fit real nice. I made sure that you just have to take your time when you do this on your own, on your back, because it's easy to get things out of alignment. The muffler looks like it's spot on. It's nice and level. And the part of the pipe that goes vertically is pretty much straight up and down. It's far enough away from the suspension components, the springs and everything, so that it won't make any contact and cause a noise concern. Resonator has got plenty of clearance between the fuel tank and the body. And for aesthetic purposes, I got the tailpipe lined up parallel with the bumper. A lot of times you'll see these things at an angle, and I slid it back a little bit to where the tip of the tailpipe is almost basically halfway with the bumper. If it's too far in, I think that the moisture coming out of the exhaust could have some corrosion problems underneath the car. So I basically slid it out as far as practical so that exhaust is going away from the car as much as it can. Everything's nice and tight. And qualitatively the engine sounds a lot better. But we'll get this thing back on the ground, warm it up, and take a measurement again. I left everything in place while I worked on the car, so the car, when I jacked it up, scooted like maybe ½ inch or so, but I think that's not going to make any difference. But everything else has been undisturbed, so we'll be able to take measurements again and compare the old muffler, the no-name brand, with the Walker Quiet Flow here in just a few minutes. Well, car's been running for a while. You can tell by the amount of water coming out the tailpipe. Looks like I have a slight leak at where the resonator bolts up. I'm going to have to tighten up that clamp a little bit more, but that's why I check these things. And looking at the decibel meter, here's what we have. Kind of about the same, maybe about 68 decibels. And here's what the exhaust sounds like. Not sure if the camera is doing a good job picking anything up or not, but let's give it some RPMs and see what it sounds like off idle. That sounded better from within the car. Didn't hear those annoying beats. I'm not sure how that sounded on the video camera, how much it captured, but guess I'll find out if I watch my own video. But anyway, that's basically all there is to replacing the exhaust. It's not really all that hard. You've got to cut the pipes out with a sawzall typically. Everything fits on with slip joints, and working on the ground on your back like that makes it a little bit tricky because it's hard to get your body in the right position to make sure everything's lined up. You don't want the exhaust pipes hitting the floorboard or suspension components or anything like that. So you just have to take your time and tighten the clamps snug enough to where you can twist the pipes and they'll stay in that position, and then go ahead and run them all down. And then there's the side profile. I think that the pipes fit in really well. And then we got the rear profile. Looks nice and straight. So I'm going to go ahead and take this thing for a test drive and kind of evaluate the qualitative sound of it. Even though on the meter, decibel wise, it seems to me to be about the same. But there's nothing like getting it and driving it at various speeds just to see the different characteristics of the muffler and the now the resonator that I have in there. The resonator kind of works by a standing wave principle. The waves, the pulses from the engine, the 8 cylinders that come out of the muffler hit the resonator, and they create standing waves, and they kind of go back and forth and cancel each other out. That resonator's tuned to cancel out certain frequencies that otherwise would make it into the interior of the car with just a straight pipe like what we have over there. So this job was definitely worth it, going in with the steel muffler versus the aluminized muffler, and then going in with the resonator. And it's not that hard of a job. It takes about 3 hours to do it yourself. Save some money, and you can do the job right and know that things are put in correctly.